Hi everyone, and welcome to the first ever virtual training for the Terrapin Survey. So my name is Catherine Phillips, and I'm an environmental scientist for the Maryland Coastal Bays program, and we'll be going through a little bit about terrapins and how to conduct the Terrapin Survey for this year. And this year our Terrapin Survey dates are going to be May 26th through May 30th. So first I wanted to give you all a little bit of background about the Maryland Coastal Bays program. So to start, we are a national estuary program with the Environmental Protection Agency, but we're also a nonprofit. And so we're one of 28 national estuary programs throughout the country. And so we focus on estuaries of national significance. And specifically, our goal as a program is to protect and enhance the Coastal Bays watershed, which includes the areas behind Ocean City and Assateague, and then also near Ocean Pines and Berlin. And so we do have 5 main coastal bays, including a river of significance. So we have the St. Martin River, and then from north to south we have the Assateague Bay, Isle of Wight Bay, Sinapatuxent Bay, Newport Bay, and then Chincoteague Bay. And so we're a pretty small watershed, about 175 square miles, and we extend a little bit into Delaware and then south into Virginia. So in 2012, Maryland Coastal Bays program partnered with the Maryland Department of Natural Resources to begin conducting Diamondback Terrapin surveys in the Coastal Bays watershed. And the purpose of these surveys is to better understand the current distribution of terrapins throughout the watershed. So before discussing the actual survey, I wanted to give a little bit of background information about terrapins. And first I wanted to talk about where they live and what their range is throughout the United States. So Diamondback terrapins prefer to live in coastal salt marshes, tidal creeks, estuaries, and brackish marshes along the east and Gulf coasts. So they can be found from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, all the way down to Corpus Christi, Texas. Within this range, there are 7 subspecies, and our species that we're going to be focusing on are the northern Diamondback terrapin, whose range is from Cape Cod to Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. When surveying, it's important to note the difference in size between male and female terrapins. So here you can see in this photo, the bottom terrapin is a female and the top terrapin is a male. Females can grow up to 9 inches, and they tend to have larger, wider heads, and then also taller, rounded carapace or shells. Males, on the other hand, are smaller, so they only grow to a maximum of about 6 inches. They have longer tails, smaller heads, and a flatter carapace or shell. And in addition to the size difference between terrapins, they also reach sexual maturity at different ages. So females take about 8 to 10 years to reach sexual maturity, while males will only take about 5 to 6 years. Terrapins are carnivorous and have a fairly diverse diet. Their diet includes bivalves, so clams, oysters, and scallops, marine worms, shrimp, marine snails, and blue crabs. Their diet of marine snails classifies them as a keystone species, as they help control the population of marine snails in salt marshes, keeping the salt marsh grasses healthy. Terrapins emerge from hibernation in mid-spring and begin mating. Between late May to mid-July, the females will lay 2 to 3 clutches or rounds of eggs, and each clutch will contain 8 to 10 eggs. Roughly 7 to 10 weeks after laying those eggs, they will begin to hatch. Unfortunately, we tend to see low egg and hatchling survival rates between predation on the eggs and on the hatchlings. And terrapins, as with other turtles, they tend to experience temperature-dependent sex determination. So if you have sand and soil temperatures around the eggs that are 86 degrees or higher, you're going to have mostly female terrapins. And if it's 82 degrees or lower, you will have mostly male terrapins. There are a variety of threats against terrapins across their range, but also specifically within the coastal bays. One of those threats are habitat loss, so this is between shoreline development and then also wetland loss. We also experience vehicle strikes, both as the terrapins are trying to cross the road to get to nesting sites, and then also when they're in the water themselves and are struck by boats. In Maryland, commercial harvesting began in the mid-18th century, and then continued through 2007 when it was officially banned in Maryland. And that resulted in a significant decrease in the terrapin population throughout Maryland. Currently, one of the more prevalent threats against terrapins in the coastal bays are derelict crab pots or ghost crab pots. So these happen when crab pots become abandoned from their buoy and terrapins attracted to blue crabs and the same bait used to catch blue crabs will enter these crab pots and then become stuck and will subsequently drown. So here you can see a female and male terrapin that have been trapped in a crab pot, and then the picture to the top are actually a bunch of crab pots that have been removed from the coastal bays through one of our derelict crab pot removal programs. And specifically in the coastal bays, bycatch reduction devices, or BRDs, are required to be installed on all recreational crab pots to help prevent the drowning of terrapins. So now that you know a little bit about terrapins themselves, we'll begin talking about the Terrapin Survey. So the Terrapin Survey this year will be from Tuesday, May 26th through Saturday, May 30th. We do it around this time of year because it's after the terrapins have all emerged from hibernation and they're starting to aggregate into groups as they begin mating and then laying eggs. And we have two options for the Terrapin Survey. We have a land-based survey, which can be conducted from your home, a family or friend's home with permission, or a public location. And it involves 3 surveys at each location, each being 15 minutes long. The second option is a water-based survey, which can be conducted via a kayak, canoe, stand-up paddleboard, or a motorboat. And these are a one-way survey that have no time constraint. So you can take 20 minutes to survey, or if you want, you can survey for a few hours. The choice is yours. While performing the Terrapin Survey, it's important that you provide your location. There are a variety of smartphone apps available that provide the latitude and longitude in decimal degrees. And I provide a few examples on the following slide. For the boat-based surveys, I do ask that surveyors take waypoints or coordinates of their survey location every 10 minutes if terrapins are not being sighted. This allows me to determine your route as well as determining where terrapins are located and where they're absent. For the land-based surveys, if you're not able to use a smartphone app or get your coordinates, you may use a physical address instead. So when is the best time to survey? Surveying on clear, sunny days are when you're more likely to see basking or submerged terrapins. Rainy and windy days are less likely to see terrapins present. I do ask that you do not survey in unsafe conditions. Please be cautious and be safe while out there surveying. What should you expect while surveying? Most likely you will see more terrapins in the water than you will on the land. In these photos, you can see what it will look like when you're just seeing the heads of terrapins. You can see in the top photo what they look like from a distance. If you go forward, you can see that I've circled where terrapins are present in the photo. In the bottom photo, they're a little closer, so it's a little more easy to see where they are. Observing with binoculars can be helpful as it allows you to more accurately identify whether they're terrapins or stick. If you're doing the water-based survey, you can paddle forward a little bit, and if the head disappears underwater, it's most likely a terrapin. If it does not, it's probably more likely to be a stick. While terrapins are the only turtle to exclusively live in brackish water, occasionally there are other visitors to our coastal bays. While we do get sea turtles, they are much larger and are unlikely to be mistaken for a terrapin. Occasionally, you will have common snapping turtles enter brackish water, and these can be identified by the ridges along their spine and then along their tail as well. So that is the bottom photo to the left that you can see there. Some other common species that people frequently get mixed up with terrapins are our pond turtles, so painted turtles, red-bellied scooters, and they're in similar species to that. So that's the photo on the top left. In the middle is our box turtle, which is a terrestrial turtle that we have commonly in the area, and those are also fairly frequently mixed up for terrapins. So while surveying, it is important to look out for the location and where you're surveying. Make sure you're in brackish water and not a freshwater pond. And then make sure you are looking for the distinctive speckling on the skin of the Diamondback terrapins and then the markings on the shell as well. While surveying, there are a few supplies that are required and then a few additional ones that will make your job a little bit easier. Data sheets, the volunteer waiver form, and the contact form are all required in order to survey. If you have binoculars or a spotting scope if you're surveying on land, those can be useful in helping to confirm the identity of terrapins. Using a GPS, cell phone, or an address if you are performing the land-based survey also are helpful in providing the lat-longs of your location. And then the safety measures of wearing hats, sunscreen, bug spray, and drinking water are also helpful to keep you happy and healthy. As I've mentioned, the water-based survey consists of a one-way survey via motorboat, kayak, canoe, or stand-up paddleboard with no time constraint. Record the location of the start and end of the survey, as well as the locations of each terrapin sighted. And then in addition, if you go more than 10 minutes without sighting a terrapin, record the waypoint or the location at which you have not seen terrapins. Also record the sight conditions at the start and end of the survey, so that includes air temperature, wind speed, and other conditions. It's also helpful if you record the shoreline habitat at each survey location, so these include marsh, beach, forest, farmland, or agriculture, and developed. More details on the water-based survey can be found in the protocols. You can see a portion of the water-based survey data sheet. At the top, you can record your date, location, and the survey type that you're doing. For this, we will only be using the one-way survey with no time constraint. You can also record who is doing the survey, including the boat operator, scribe, and observer. You can have the scribe and observer be the same person. You can also record the sight conditions at the start and stop of the survey. On the bottom portion of the data sheet is where you actually record the terrapin sighted and the locations. For number of runs, each time you start a new survey or go in a different direction, I ask that you start a second or different run. You also will record the terrapins in 3 different categories. The categories are adult female, adult male or juveniles, and undetermined. If you're unsure of the type of terrapin that you're seeing, please record them as undetermined. If you're seeing very small terrapins, you could record them in the adult male or juvenile category. And if you're seeing very clear large terrapins, those could be recorded as adult females. But if you're unsure, it's okay for you to put them in the undetermined category. And as mentioned on the previous slide, there are areas for you to check the type of shoreline habitat present, and so you can just put a check next to each category. For the land-based survey, these consist of going to a singular location and conducting 3 15-minute long surveys. At the start of the survey, record either the lat long or the address as well as the conditions. And in the comments, you can also note the shoreline type, such as marsh, developed land, agriculture, forest, or beach. In the photo to the right, you can see some terrapins in the canal. You can see their heads, and then underneath the water, you can see their shells as well. Here is a portion of the land-based survey data sheet. So each square, there are 2 here, allow you to survey 1 location. When you arrive at your location, record the latitude or longitude or provide the address. Record the surveyor names and then the site conditions when you arrive on site. For each 15-minute survey period, record the start time and end time and the number of terrapins sighted. There are 3 categories for terrapins sighted, including females, males/juveniles, or unknowns. If you're unsure of the sex of the terrapins you're seeing, record them in the unknown category. If you're seeing very clearly large terrapins, you may count that in the female category, or if you're seeing very small terrapins, you can put them in the male/juvenile category. But just with the water-based survey, if you're unsure which category they go in, it's quite all right for you to place them in the unknown category. And then in the comments section is where you can record the shoreline type present. For this survey, I also ask that you record any equipment used, such as spotting scopes or binoculars. So with that, that's pretty much the end of the first ever virtual Terrapin survey training. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me via my email. Right now we are working from home, so my cell phone is the best way to reach me if you have questions while out surveying. I will be out surveying myself next week, so if you do have questions while out next week, my cell phone is probably the best way to reach me, since I won't be checking my email while out in the field. Thank you so much for volunteering this year. I know this has been hectic with all the different updates and changes due to COVID-19 right now, and I really appreciate everyone's patience as we figured out how we were going to be performing the Terrapin survey this year. And so if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and happy surveying.